everyone. My name is Wendy Morosoff, and I'm the director of the Career Development Center at Purchase College. I recognize a number of names here, and I'm happy to see you joining in. I'm going to speak very briefly just about, in general, the Career Development Center and how we can support our students and alumni during this extraordinarily challenging and unprecedented time. We are still here. We still offer services and support, whether that be for the graduating senior. Of course, they know because they're scheduling many appointments with us now to meet with career coaches and help them with their marketing and figuring things out and recalculating and reassessing their plans in this challenging job market, but also alumni who have come back and said, look, I have to re-career a little bit. I'm looking for something for support, or I lost my job. I'm not really sure what my next steps can be. We can do some introductory coaching with them and then refer them for additional support and resources and tools. So I encourage you to take advantage of that. But the other thing I just wanted to say before we get started, because I think that our wonderful alumni have much more to share that would be of value to you today, is the very fact that we have our alumni, that alumni at Purchase, you know, I'm giving a plug for engagement and LinkedIn and our Purchase Alumni Mentor Network, because I do believe so strongly that this is the best time for networking. The one silver lining in this pandemic is that because people are more accessible in a remote setting, sometimes they are more accessible to you and more likely to, you're maybe more likely to get a response and more likely to have a conversation and more likely to establish a mentoring type relationship. So as we go through and we talk about the different you know, opportunities in different fields, I think, you know, it's one of my recommendations is to make sure that you find the ways to engage with our alumni as well, because Purchase alumni, I was just talking to Kevin about this, but Purchase alumni versus working for a very large university where it's harder for alumni to engage, Purchase has always been there for Purchase students. And I just think it's a really good thing to not be afraid and take advantage, especially for those who this is sort of the first time you're doing that. And we can help you with that in those first steps if you're a little timid about it. Anyway, without further ado, I don't want to take up too much time because we've got some great people to share their expertise. I'm going to hand the baton over to Kevin, who is going to introduce our speakers and take it from there. So thanks very much for attending. Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you, Wendy. Thank you all. Good morning, good afternoon to all who tuned in. Welcome to this great event that we're having today about navigating the economy in an uncertain time. Just a background on this program, you know, thinking about my experience, I graduated in 2010, and I can imagine for the students who are on the panel, thinking about going to college, what that means for you, and then graduating in like one of the worst economic downturns 10 years ago. I thought it was important for not only myself, but also my peers who I'll introduce in a second, to kind of share and reflect on their experience. And hopefully that will bring some guidance and recommendations to those students who are on, and also to the recent graduates who are on, about tips and strategies about how we survived and how we weathered the storm. So that's pretty much how this came about. I'll introduce myself. I forgot to do that. My name is Kevin Collymore. I'm the class of 2010 and also president of the Purchase College Alumni Association. So now I will introduce the panelists. First, I'll just share whoever was on my screen first. So I'll introduce Jay. Jay is in Singapore. I'll let him explain that. So we have Jay, we have Joe, we have Caritha, and then we have Agela. So, and then also I want to introduce my co-moderator, Jeff, who's also working in the Purchase College Career Development Center as well. So thank you all for participating and also answering my call and email and LinkedIn messages. Really appreciate you all agreeing to join us as hosts. So why don't we just do introduction? So first, just tell the panel a little bit about yourself, where you currently are located, what career field you're in currently, and one thing or activity you've learned during quarantine. I'll start with Jay, and then Jay, you pick someone.
Sure. Yeah, I'm Jay, originally from Brooklyn, New York, class of 2009. I graduated Bachelor of Fine Arts in Graphic Design. Luckily, I've stayed in the industry, and now I'm a lead designer, lead product designer, which is more internet/app based in Singapore for this company called Grab, which is very similar to like Uber, but it does like a bunch of different things for Southeast Asia. So I've been here for almost like 4 years. One thing I've actually learned during COVID making, so I'm actually making shoes right now. Actually, making shoes, handmade. That's what I've been doing. So I should introduce the next person I see on the screen, right?
Yeah, pick some.
All right, next person I will introduce, who's near me, is Joe. Nice to see you, buddy.
Good to see you. Yeah, I graduated in 2010 from the Cinema Studies department. I was involved with PTV, and I was president of the student government for a year. And now I live in Brooklyn, and I'm a video editor in news and documentary. Currently, I'm at Vice Media, where I work on Vice News and some of their long form stuff. And yeah, this year I learned how to make a baby, which has been my big, exciting COVID life update. Thank you. And who is next? I see just Jeff and Kevin in my screen. Who else do we have? Caritha, do you want to go?
Yeah, Caritha. Yeah, I'll go. Hello, everyone. I'm excited to be here. So my name is Caritha Davis. I currently live in Brooklyn, New York. I'm a Brooklyn native, and I graduated in 2008. And I graduated with a degree in media, society, and the arts, and I minored in dance. So I took some dance classes in the conservatory as well. I'm currently a dance educator. I teach middle school dance, and I am a business owner. I created the LLC Body Raw Movement, where we do Caribbean dance and other spiritual practices to uplift communities. And that's about it for now. And I will pass it to Angela. Hi, Angela.
Actually, it's Agela.
Agela.
Yeah, you're good. Agela. Yeah.
I'm sorry about that.
No, you're good. You're good. So I'm originally from New York. I graduated class of 2010. I was an arts management major. At the time, I believe it was actually a brand new major. It was only like maybe 1 or 2 years old, maybe. So I like to feel that I was like hopeful in that department as far as a pioneer, because I was like one of the first students actually try to major out. I'm currently located in Miami, Florida. I'm a DJ, and it's kind of crazy because I never thought I'd be here as far as because I didn't DJ any parties that purchased. I was on the basketball team, and I actually worked for facilities while I was there. You know, everybody who was come, you know, and either change your furniture out, change your mattress, whatever. If you lived in Alumni or anything like that, if your washer and dryer was broken, you called us. So, and as far as quarantine, what I've learned, well, I'll actually say relearned, and because I revisited during the quarantine. But when I was younger, and even at purchase, I used to cut hair. I used to cut hair for the boys basketball team before parties and games and stuff like that. So during the quarantine, I picked up the clippers again because I had to cut my own hair because it had been 3 months and it was looking kind of crazy. So yeah, that's something that I would say that I actually got back into and started kind of taking a little bit serious. So
Thanks. And also, Jeff, could you also introduce yourself as well?
Of course, thank you. So my name is Jeff Arroyo. For those of you who don't know me, I graduated from Purchase as well from the class of 2016 as a psychology major. I also interned at the Career Development Center where I work full-time now as a career counselor and the experiential learning coordinator. So as I'm listening to your exciting stories, guys, I may connect with you for internship opportunities. But certainly it is a pleasure to be here with everyone. So I thank you all for coming. And I can't wait to hear more about your perspective stories.
Great, thanks. So I'll just jump into the first question, and then anyone can answer and then pass it along to your colleagues. So how did the last Great Recession of 2008 impact your intended career field and also employment opportunities?
I'm happy to jump in. Yeah, so I graduated in 2010. 2008 was still, had just happened. It was still really hard. And so for me, I was talking to people who had graduated and they were saying they were doing internships, but those internships weren't going anywhere. So they were spending, maybe 4 months trying to sort of introduce themselves to companies. I always stayed in media, so I was always looking for different film and TV opportunities. So I made the decision of moving to Denver, Colorado, which is where the film industry is not. And I spent the first 2 years just sort of working jobs to stabilize myself, nothing to do with film and TV. And then I started working in local Denver media, where I eventually found a job with Free Speech TV, which no one here would know, but they are partnered very heavily with Democracy Now! And so that was my into doing news and documentary work. And I did that until I was able to leverage a job back in New York. And I moved from Denver back to New York in 2 days when I got the job offer. And I came back and it was for a reality TV show. It was actually through a Purchase connection. It was from Andrew Rowley, who was a post supervisor at the time. And I was able to show that I had enough production and post-production experience from Free Speech TV that he could take a shot and hire me as a night assistant editor. And that was how I sort of leveraged myself back into the industry in New York.
As someone who graduated really in the moment of the recession, I remember looking for refuge from the internships that I was doing in my major, Media, Society, and the Arts. I was doing internships with talent agencies and things like that in the city, and they were not accepting any applications for employment. So after that, I was gigging a lot using the dance skills, and also working for non-for-profits, a lot of non-for-profits. But in the midst of that, I was having a hard time financially. And one of the reasons why is that for some reason, paychecks were really slow. Right? And having to always follow up, where's my paycheck, where's my money, and all of those back and forths. And I realized that things are getting tough. And I immediately, after 1 year of freelancing and working, made a decision to get my master's because I realized that it was imperative for what I want to do and the amount of money I would want to make right after college to help pay off my loans. I wasn't financially secured. So when I applied for my master's in dance education at NYU, but in all honesty, that was I was most focused in what I'm studying. It was very central. And I think knowing where the economy was at that time, it forced my will to persevere at graduate school.
Agela or Jay, anything to add?
Man, I would say during that time it was very interesting because I graduated 2010, so it was 2 years after the recession, and I remember some of my classmates actually afraid to graduate. Like they were trying to figure out ways to take more classes the following semester just so they wouldn't have to go out to the real world. And I was like, damn, is it that crazy out there? is it really like that? They're selling us this dream that you have to go to college, and once you go to college, you'll be able to get out and find a decent job. So during that time, in 2009, I was interning at Def Jam. I remember like Def Jam and Purchase had like an affiliation of some sort. So I was at Sony and Def Jam, the 2 separate semesters. And I loved Def Jam. It was really, really fun. I was in radio promotion. And I didn't care how I got in. I was just willing to work from the ground floor because, it was music industry and that's what I wanted to do. So I was there for the semester right before I graduated, and kept in contact with everyone. And they're like, okay, we can't hire you until you graduate. So you have one more semester left, and and then come back and try then. So during that last semester before I graduated, I made sure to stay in contact with everyone. And as soon as I graduated, I was like, okay, well, let me give the summer a rest. Nobody's really hiring in the summer, and September just hit the ground running. And once I did that, Def Jam was on a hiring freeze, is what they told me. At the time, L.A. Reid, who was like CEO of Def Jam, something like that, he had left and went to X Factor when that was a thing. And once he left, he took a lot of people with him, and the company just couldn't afford to hire anyone. So now I'm like, what? Like, I guess you being young, you putting all your eggs in one basket, and you're listening to what everybody promised you months before, and now it's almost about a year later. So that was kind of a hard pill to swallow. So what I would do was, I remember like maybe in the meantime, and intermittent, I could just get a job somewhere. And even that was really tough because I remember applying to so many different jobs, like bank jobs, insurance company, like farmers, like stuff like that, just so I can get a decent paycheck in the meantime while I was waiting for Def Jam. And even in that midst of me applying to all those jobs, I still couldn't get hired. And so now I'm like, you're thinking it's you. And I was just like, it just doesn't make sense. So to prove a point, I just applied to jobs for the hell of it, just to see if somebody would pick me up. And I remember even applying to Target as a joke. And I was overqualified, they told me. But it just went to show, I was like, damn, I really felt like I couldn't get a job. And for a little bit, it was kind of depressing because, it's, you go to Purchase and they tell you, as far as Purchase as a SUNY school, you'll be able to get a job in this department or whatever field you're in. And the fact that I had my degree and I wasn't able to get at least something, was kind of like disheartening. And I was just like, what am I going to do? I was asking everybody else what they were doing, and the same thing, like, oh, I just got to go to, get a job. And I was like, damn, maybe I should have had something more specific, like, graphic design or the VA, something that can be able to get me in a reputable business or something like that. But for the longest, like, I couldn't get a job at all. And I think the 2 companies that did finally reach out to me randomly were 2 rental car companies, Enterprise and Hertz. And I was just like, this is crazy. Like, I could not believe that this is what I had to do, but I did it. So it was a lesson learned, and it was tough, but we needed to make money. So
Thanks for sharing that. Jay?
Yeah, so I graduated in 2009, literally right after the recession. Well, I mean, the recession was still happening, right? And that year was interesting because I was dealing with my like senior project, along with like applying for a bunch of internships because I knew what was about to happen, right? Like, because I've heard from the people that graduated in 2008, they were just struggling to get a job or even an internship. So I was freaking out a little bit at the end of the year, on top of like trying to finish up my senior thesis and all that stuff. Luckily, I went through a bunch of interviews. No one was hiring, or they weren't interested in general, because there's always like, because if you just graduate from the design conservatory, you are up against like SVA folks that graduated. You're up against Pratt people. Not a lot of people will look at your senior purchase and think designer and hire them, right? So it was a struggle, not gonna lie, but I did get lucky. I ended up landing an internship at Comcast, and it wasn't actually in anything I was like doing at the time. So it was actually animation and doing live broadcast animation and shooting, which is interesting because I had not done it in a while. I mean, I've took classes in new media, but it was, there was some design obviously I had to do. So I took the internship with knowing that, okay, I'm just gonna hustle, work my butt off and hopefully land like a full-time job. After, I guess, the internship, they couldn't hire me full-time. And I'm sure that some of you guys are familiar with the term permalancer, right? Someone that's full-time, you don't get benefits, which sucked, to be honest, because I had some health issues at the time. So I was still struggling paying off, health insurance. I think Cobra, I was paying for Cobra at that point. This is before like Obamacare back then, right? So that was painful. I was living in, at this point, Greenpoint was blowing up. So I was living in Greenpoint and the rent prices were going up. I was struggling because the fact that I had to pay bills on top of healthcare bills, and then my permalance job wasn't paying well, and I hated the job, to be honest. And because the TV industry, as Joe knows, is not for the weary, right? So I literally quit after a year, and I actually lived off my savings, and I actually just did a bunch of jobs for free in my head, knowing that this is going to pay off, that all these jobs I would actually do, like these internships, they wouldn't pay me, but I know it was like good work. So I did a bunch of music videos, did some animations for like well-known artists. I'm not going to name drop because it's not worth it talking about that. But like in general, I just in my head, it's like, okay, this is going to pay off. This is going to pay off. And I was writing a bunch of emails or cover letters like every night, actually, because I wanted to move to California. And it benefited me because all that work I put in, along with the free work I had done, actually ended up going like showcasing to a bunch of people in California. I landed a job in California, and then my career finally took off. That was 2010, but it took me at least a year or so to actually get a job. And I know I was very lucky because a lot of my friends that I graduated with were also struggling finding like a decent job in general. So I got very lucky that year in 2010.
Before I say my follow-up question, I just want to thank all of you for your honesty. It's certainly important for the time period, and also personally good to hear that many of you had positive experiences with internships. And Jay, for example, it really seemed to help you build your portfolio. Like you said, this would pay off for you later, and it certainly did. So that's good to hear. My follow-up question for each of you is, what resource or resources did you find the most helpful in your job search? This could also relate to the internships as well, if you found some afterwards.
I would start by saying that what initially helped me a lot was the community that I was in, the arts community I was in Brooklyn, prior to going to Purchase College. And I think a couple of you guys spoke about just keeping relationships active. And that really went a long way. And that doesn't mean that you're using someone or just really have pure intentions of why you're still keeping a connection. You don't have to talk to the person every day or every week, maybe twice a year, but those little things goes a long way. And I remember when I was gigging and working for non-for-profits, the relationships I had really developed after graduating from Purchase.
I guess one of the things that actually helped me was actually finding out about the New York State laws to help people, whether they're, dealing with being a freelancer in New York, because I didn't realize like you can write off a bunch of things. And I literally learned like all these little, I want to say loopholes, but they do impact you, especially if you're an artist, right? All these things that you could write off, like your apartment, you can actually set as an office, right? And you can write that off. And that helped me extremely, just like learning all these laws and regulations in general, and just reading about, oh, they can support you, especially if you're an artist or designer. Those little things do go a long way. And that helped me like survive for that year or two when I was working in New York City.
The two things that really helped me was keeping in touch with Purchase alumni and really sort of fostering that network. Purchase had a really sort of very positive film community, because when you get out into the industry, you'll find a lot of people who work in film and TV. They went to places like NYU and other sort of big schools, that the Purchase students are sort of all stepped together. And if a Purchase alumni could get onto a TV show, they would try and bring everybody in. We were called cockroaches for a while, because one of us and then all of us. So keeping in touch with those people and sort of just being supportive of other people while they got opportunities, even if I wasn't yet getting an opportunity. And ultimately, like I said, Andrew Rowley, who was a post supervisor, was staffing up a show, and he, him and I had kept in touch, and he asked if I was interested, and that ended up being a great opportunity. From Andrew, so that was at a place, I don't even think it exists anymore. It was like K2 Pictures. And from there, somebody he had introduced me to, got me a job on Animal Planet, and then Left Field, and then VH1. And, eventually one of those people hit me back up and said they were staffing a show at Vice and asked if I was interested. But the other thing that was really helpful was a thing that I had never really utilized, that I have found being more along my career, is occasionally people who are getting ready to graduate will email me and they will say, hey, I'm a senior at this college. I found you on LinkedIn. My dream job is to edit for Vice News. How do I get there? And I will always email those people back. Any like student or recent grad that contacts me out of the blue and says, I need help getting started in my career, I will offer to look at their resume. I will give them advice. The thing that I most notice is they'll ask, hey, can I apply for a job at Vice? Is there any entry-level position at Vice? And I will always tell them the same thing, which is, if you really want to work for something like Vice News, don't worry about applying right now for Vice News. Apply somewhere else, work a show, work for some news program that no one's ever heard of, and sort of like build your resume up and feel more confident in the work that you're doing there. And so as you sort of move up the ladder and then eventually apply to someplace like Vice News, they will see this whole resume filled out of opportunities that you've done and people that can speak to your work, and they will come to you.
I like that a lot, because I was one of those kids. So I remember like graduating and then, seeing on the requirements, like, oh, I have 10 years experience. I'm like, how am I going to get that? Because I just graduated and it's entry level. I need 3 years experience, 4 years experience. So I really like that a lot. And for myself, especially, let's just talk about if, you may not be at the job that you actually want right now, right? So what I would do, no matter what job that I was at, I would, when I was there, I would be at the job of my dreams, right? So if I wanted to work at Vice and I wasn't there yet, and say I was at Enterprise, I would look at my daily duties and see how that could translate and to the job that I do want to have, or then I learned over here that I could take over there. And then, every day I would just kind of like pretend and I was at the job of my dream. It may not necessarily have anything to do with what you're doing. And that was just for me to keep the dream alive and keep my head in the game, because, I don't know, I guess you could use it as a resource in a way. Because we all know that networking is important, and giving back to people, coming after you is very important as well. But as far as a resource, just to maybe or just keep your dream alive in any aspect, is just to kind of see yourself there no matter what job that you have. Take the skills, like Joe said, from the jobs before you get there, and see what you can apply, so.
I agree. So I'll ask the next question, and in the interest, I want to make sure that we have time for the attendees to also ask questions. So everyone doesn't have to respond, but for those thinking about, I remember when I graduated in 2010, Twitter had just come out in 2009. Facebook was something that was created maybe 2006, 2007 when I was in high school. So how important is social media towards your personal and professional success? How did you find social media helpful in your marketing of yourself? I'll pick on Jay because I know he's on social media a lot.
I hate social media, but I mean, okay, to be fair, I did work at Twitter, so I'll just, I think social media, okay, I think it does help nowadays. I don't think back then it really mattered, to be honest. I think nowadays, you need to have some sort of social presence, whether it's posting something on LinkedIn, whether it's posting something on, I don't know, TikTok, whatever, because people want to see your talent, want to see your skills. I think one thing that we do, well, I mean, for designers, right, we do look at a lot of your visual storytelling, and I think that goes a long way to show how your talents are used, right? And I think that's, I guess, for my industry, right? I'm not sure about other industries, but that is very important, especially if we're trying to hire people, because we look at how you're using your social, how you portray yourself on your website, how what you say on Twitter, because some people actually you won't hire based on their based on, I don't want to say agenda, but if there's something wrong with what you tweet, we will not hire you, right? I think you don't want to come off, I guess, too abrasive, but I think nowadays you have to be very careful in what you say. I think that's one thing that I've realized, that you can't just say anything on Twitter, right? And people may react and may not even hire you. So you have to be very careful in terms of what you post, right? And I think Twitter is a mess. Now there's Clubhouse, right? There's Twitter Spaces and all these crazy things. So people are gonna remember. And tweets get resurfaced from like 2012, right? As you've seen, like celebrities now like get picked on. So just realize that it is a thing, and you just gotta be wary of what you put online in general, because it does matter to people like me that know from like the older generation now know, like I have to like look at this person and spy, quote unquote, and see like their qualifications, right?
And then one more, if anyone wants to volunteer.
I'll speak on that because as a DJ, like I actually kind of really need it. So same thing. I was during arts management. I took a class. I forgot what it's called, viral marketing, and that's when Twitter first came out, and it was in 2009. And one of our assignments was we had to actually sign up for it and try to get 100 followers by the following week. So everybody just followed each other in class, and at least that got me 50. But Twitter had just came. Fast forward now, my biggest platform is my biggest platform is Instagram, right? So that's actually that was 8 times out of the 10 how I get booked, because it's like a whole landing page. You can see how I look, you can listen to my mixes, there's links to other mixes, and especially we know now from the quarantine that a lot of DJs went on Instagram Live. And so, there's past performances of that. You can see highlights of past performances that I did either, from my story or other people's stories. And for my business, that's actually very, very important. And now, just going on, like Jason said, that, there's so many different social media sites, Twitter, Clubhouse, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and Facebook is still alive and well, believe it or not. But 9 times out of 10, that is how I get booked. So for me, it's very important, very important. Not so much maybe the aesthetic, because I know a lot of people pay attention to that, But as a DJ, I need to have a lot of my information on there. So it's easier to get booked. And it's crazy because I would have never guessed, you know, getting Instagram in 2011 that we'd be here now.
I totally agree with that as well. No, it's like every other year there's a new one. I'll pass it to Jeff for the last question, and then we'll open it up to the panelists, to the attendees. So if you have any questions, you can start to enter them into the chat now.
All right, thank you, Kevin. And thank you everyone again for all the wonderful information so far. With our last question for today, it is, what advice would you give to soon to be and recent graduates entering the job market?
Hey, I can speak to that. I mean, the advice I always give is you know, every sort of interaction with somebody in your industry is an opportunity to sort of make an impression. You know, there's a lot of traditional ways. There's a lot of applying for jobs on company websites or anything like that. But you know, what's always worked best for me, and it's sort of what I just spoke to, is like, don't be afraid to email people who have the job you want and ask how you can prepare yourself, prepare your resume, look at your opportunities to help you get there. And very often, you know, when people sort of contact me out of the blue and say, you know, hey, I'd love to one day be an editor at Vice. If I hear of, you know, a company that I like or a post supervisor that I like that's going to like be a good sort of mentor for this person, I'll recommend them. I'll put them in contact with one another. So, you know, don't be afraid to just sort of reach out to people who are further along. Like, I don't know anyone in the industry who gets bothered by giving advice to a graduating student.
I would like to add on that. I think, you know, everybody has their own passions and, you know, reasons why they're here, and their skill set applies in certain directions. But one of the things is always keeping an eye open to what is happening in the world. Like, for example, right now, technology is a big thing. You know, tech is a big thing. Tech in schools, if you're into education, tech in schools is a huge thing. So how can you connect what your passion is to what is being asked for in the world right now? And also, like in dance, tech, a lot of choreography now is being videoed. You know, you should learn skills in videography and editing. So just connecting your own skill set with what's happening, I think is good.
Cool. Well, thank you all. Definitely want to leave opportunity to hear from, I know we have current students and also recent alums on serving. So if anyone has any questions and thoughts, you know, we definitely want to leave time to answer those questions as well. But kudos to the whole panel. Thank you again. This was a really rich discussion. But let's see, let me look into the chat.
Just in case I have a question to start us off while they start typing out. If you guys are open to having students reach out to you, like Joe, it seemed like you would certainly be. Where can folks find you, whether that's social media, your emails, if you'd like to share that in the chat?
Yeah, I was going to offer, if anyone in who's attending would like me to take a look at their resume, like I'd be more than happy. I've done that for a few sort of people starting off as well. So my email is here. Email. And you can also find me on Twitter at so if you reach out to me through there, I'd be more than happy to sort of hear what your path is, what you're interested in, and take a look at a resume for you.
Thank you.
Great. We're gonna remove the spotlight so we can all see each other. It's in like it's a classroom, so don't be freaked out about that. Thanks, Stacey. Any questions from current students? Definitely want to hear what they all have to say or reflected upon. Well, I'll have a question. Thinking back about your experience at Purchase, if you can go back into time, what's one thing you would change or do differently your senior year? Knowing what you know now.
I'll speak for myself. I mean, before you said senior year, I was just like, I would have DJ'd in college. I would have DJ'd in college. But yeah, it still applies. I put all my eggs in one basket as far, so I think maybe because when I focus on something I really want to do, I get like laser sharp focus, and that's all I can see. So I would probably spread my eggs out a little bit more and keep a mind state of just being adaptable just in case what you want doesn't necessarily pan out. But for sure, as a DJ now, I wish I would have DJ'd just back then, and my focus is really on sports, but I probably would have just been involved with music in general if I had the chance to, for sure.
Yeah, same, Kevin. I think networking probably would have networked a little bit better. I think one thing that I definitely could have worked on, that I should have worked on, was more like my presentation skills and storytelling skills to like just sell myself. Because I sucked when I was in those interviews, man. Those the interviews were terrible. So if I had done more practicing, especially within and taken some of my classes seriously when they actually present, you have to present yourself and your work. Yeah, definitely should have done that.
I think for me, I was just so obsessed my senior year with getting a job in the film industry and justifying this degree that I had got. I couldn't quite see that everything that was going on, just how hard the job market was, it had nothing to do with me. It was almost just I just had to wait it out. And I wish I had just better realized it's okay to just breathe, work and job in film, TV and TV. And the 2-3 years that I spent working jobs that had nothing to do with my degree were very valuable years, and very valuable for me, just relaxing and calming down.
I agree. I want to pick on, I see Danny Lee has their screen or video on. Danny, do you have any questions for the panelists?
Oh no, I was just I was just in the process of trying to think of one, but yeah, I think one thing that's always been on my mind lately, and I've been contemplating but very nervous to do, is would you recommend, let's say I also want to do film and story writing as well, and I've always just found all these companies that I might be interested in working for, and just I've just been thinking about sending out cold call emails to these places. So, but I'm kind of nervous and not sure how to go about that. So I just wanted to get your thoughts about the right approach to reaching out to a brand new company that I'm not that you're not familiar with at all, and how to go about making that first impression.
Good question.
Yeah. Do you mind if I jump in to some?
Sure.
Okay. So at the start of COVID, I got an email from somebody. There was I'm part of this group. It's the New York Post Alliance, and there's also the Blue Collar Post Collective. Both are New York-based groups, and both are do a lot for emerging talent. And so they do a lot of in-person meetups. Obviously, that wasn't a thing that could happen anymore. So they launched a very casual email mentor program for a little bit. And the person I got paired with reached out to me, and they similarly were a recent graduate. They didn't know what to do. they sent me their resume, and it was not great. It was a terrible resume. It was just like the formatting was really bad. You couldn't tell what they were doing, and it was a 3-page long resume for somebody who had just graduated college. It was a bit extra. And so we reined in their resume, and the advice I gave to them was, everyone is figuring out the pandemic right now. No one really knows work from home yet. Email these, we narrowed down like 10 post-production companies that we thought he could pair well with. And I said, email all of them and tell them you're ready to work. You have a computer at home, your internet connection, you have hard drive, like everything you would need to work for a post-production company. And he was like, well, everyone has all of these things. And I was like, yeah, but you're just putting it in an email and telling somebody you have it. And sure enough, 2 of those companies interviewed him, and one of them ended up hiring him. And so I think very similarly, there are opportunities to sort of get meetings right now doing things similar to that. So I think it's, what I've already said, which is like, feel free to email any company, any sort of, film company, production company, post facility, and ask to speak with like an editor or an assistant editor or a producer, and just to ask them, ways that they could help you sort of get an entry-level role somewhere.
So I guess like another like follow-up question to that I had was,
yeah.
So does that, so like following up on like everything that you just said, so does that necessarily mean that I don't have to wait for these places to post a job necessarily? I can just, go in and ask.
I don't think you should.
How I can, work on the entry level, or?
Yeah, I would say like, the first email when you're reaching out to someone and sort of cold calling isn't asking for a job. You're just sort of trying to make a connection with them and ask for their time. Maybe like with Vice, if Vice doesn't have a job posting on the website like that, we're not hiring for that role. It automatically goes to the website. So the website will be more up to date than anything I know. If it's not there, it's not like I know of some opportunity. But if you reach out to an editor and say, hey, would I be able to maybe get 30 minutes or 15 minutes of your time to Zoom and ask some questions about how you got a job at this company? It's a good opportunity to sort of just pick their brain, meet them, pay attention to the names and the roles that they're sort of naming to you while you talk to them. And if you and that person hit it off, you can sort of hope that you can stay in touch with them. And as they find an opportunity, they'll think of you.
Yeah, understood. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course.
Can I add to that? Hi.
Yeah.
Wendy here. Danny, I think it's an excellent question, and I think Joe's advice is great, and the other panelists is great too. It might be easier to break the ice first with a company that you're interested in by accessing the alumni, accessing the company on LinkedIn, and then seeing, usually when you're part of LinkedIn, you'll see which alumni work there, and then look at the alumni profiles. And then from there, you might try connecting with those alumni to just seek some advice and guidance, just to engage them in the conversation, not to go after them for a job, but to begin to have that conversation. That's really networking. It's kind of friend making in a way. It's not an aggressive way of doing it, but it's a way to get a warm contact with the company that you want. It's a little easier than the cold call. So that's just a part B of that answer I just wanted to share.
And I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I just realized that I'm just like doing all the talking, but I just keep on thinking of more questions. But like me personally, though, I've been honestly feeling a little bit like discouraged in terms of the time frame, and I've just been feeling discouraged, or like, oh, what if I take longer than I wanted to, like what if like what if I'm behind the rest of my fellow classmates in finding the job that I want, or you know, I'm just like taking longer than I thought I would. So yeah, I've just been like feeling very like discouraged about that. So I was wondering if I could, get your guys' thoughts on, you know, uh, the time frame necessarily.
Danny, I'll speak on that just because I really know how it feels. Number one, do not get discouraged. Number one, change your mindset around that idea of comparing yourself to your classmates, or just a timeline that you had in your head based on what everybody tells you it should be. Like as soon as you get out of college, boom, everything's supposed to be. You have to remember that whenever you do get placed in the job that you want, it'll be the right time. You have to think about it in just for yourself, not anybody else, not what anybody else tells you, not what your parents tell you, not what society tells you, and knowing that this has kind of been generated in and out, that it's in your own mind that it's supposed to be at a specific time. I just, in this whole process of me graduating to where I'm at now, I just realized that everything is in divine timing, and rush anything. So while you have a roof over your head and you still, as far as financially, just put your focus on finding what's best for you, and not really depending so much on the time and when you find it. Okay, because it's kind of spiritual in a sense, but like you'll know the right job is for you and it's the right timing. Because if you get a job, and say you get a job a month after you graduate and you hate it, then what? You know what I mean? Then you got to start all over again. So just think about the perspective on that, and it's in your timing. Whatever Danny Lee wants to do, or the work that you put in with the warm contacts and the networking, trust me, like when you're that action oriented, it's kind of like, showing God that you're serious about what you want to do. So doors will open up for you in the right timing. Just try not to put any pressure on yourself, because that can easily, turn into, I'll speak from experience. It was like a low key depressing feeling, because, in college, I had a lot of friends out there be on the basketball team, and then to graduate and not have the job, and you were at Def Jam. Why are you at this? And now knowing, I didn't start DJing until I was 26. So now looking back at it, and the arts management major that I did have is actually helped me, with reading contracts now, and write-offs as a freelancer when doing my taxes, and there's certain things like that I learned. So just please, like, keep your mindset and your perspective on whenever the timing is right for you, the door will open.
I totally agree with that. I'll also add, what I also tell students, I work in higher education, is that like, don't get trapped into the social media trap where, people post good things but never bad things, right? I think a lot of people are going to post, some people might, but the majority are not going to post a job rejection or internship turned down. They're going to post when they do get what they want. So one, I would say definitely don't fall into that trap of having to feel like you need to post and notify like current life updates. The second thing I'll say is that also, adding on what Agela said, your first job out of college isn't going to be your dream job. And I think one thing I've learned personally is that like with every job and responsibility you get, try to take something out of it, even if you hate it. If you have to do enterprise, or if you have to do Uber, right? There are transferable skills that will lead you to the next one. Think about myself. When I graduated, I thought I was going to go to law school, and I got waitlisted pretty much, or rejected to every law school I applied to. But that opened up my career into higher education, which this is my calling. This is what I do. So, I don't feel a certain way. I have no regrets about it. And I just think with every job or every opportunity, just take something out of it, and then the timeline will work out. I think if you ask me today what my dream job is, I still don't know. But I just know that I'm on the right path of achieving it. I know we have one more minute left. If anyone wants to add anything, transition out.
Yeah, I just want to add, Kevin,
Thank you
it
so
really
much.
is all about your support system as well, right? Having the right people around you, get you in that mindset, whether it's your friends, sometimes family can be hard on you, but it depends, right? It really depends on who your support system is and who's in your head. You guys got to have the right people around you to motivate you.
You also have alumni here to help. So with that, I just want to thank the panelists, Jeff and Wendy, Nadej, Stacey. Thank you all so much for supporting and attending, and everyone who tuned in. Just as a plug, we do have the Purchase Alumni Mentoring Network, where you can find and match with alums who are in the field as well, in addition to LinkedIn. Thank you, panelists, for again answering my texts and social media messages. And I really do appreciate it. This was a really, really rich discussion, and hope to have it annually. I think this is definitely something that, our experiences graduating 10 years ago or plus definitely will benefit those in the future. So to all of those, thank you for tuning in. And I look forward to connecting with you in person soon. I have to take a trip down to see Agela in Miami. I promised her that. So I will do that shortly. All right, take care, y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Bye, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.